Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for the Student Success and Career Fair of 2018. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 ridiculously simple strategies to ace your courses, and that's with Shauna Ebsen, who I will introduce in just a moment. Shauna, it's not letting me advance the slide.
Let me make sure. See if that'll help you now. Oh, nope, that didn't
Nope.
work either. Show me the screen. Will that let you do it now?
Let me see. Nope, it's not letting me do anything. If you want to just advance to the
Okay,
next
I can
slide.
advance it for you.
Thank you. You will see a go-to control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. You can minimize or expand this panel at any point in the upper left-hand corner using that orange arrow. And you also have 2 options for listening in today. You do want to be logged in from your computer so that you can see Shauna's PowerPoint and all of the great information she'll be sharing. But if you don't have audio on your computer, you can call in as well. You'll just click on the phone call option in that audio panel, and then it's going to provide you with a dial-in number, an access code, and the audio pin. You're also going to see in that control panel the questions box, and this is how you're going to communicate with us today, sharing any questions you have, comments regarding the information. And Shauna likes to be very interactive, so I know she'll be asking some questions and looking for your interaction there, your participation in her session. So I am going to put up a quick poll now just to see who is joining us today. So you can just choose, are you a Penn Foster student, a guest joining us, a Penn Foster alumni, a Penn Foster partner, or a Penn Foster employee? You can also take it just a second to find that questions box on the control panel as well and share with us your name, where you're joining us from. Keep in mind that only Shauna and I can see that information, so it's coming directly to us. And this session is being recorded, so everyone will be able to access the recording at a later point if they need to. And Shauna, it looks like we have all Penn Foster students with us today, so that's fantastic. They're excited to see what you have to share. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Shauna Ebsen. She has done other sessions for us this week and in the past, so we're very happy to have her back with us. And she's going to present on 3 ridiculously simple strategies to ace your courses. So welcome, Shauna.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It's great to be here. I want to thank you guys all for spending part of your day with me. I know one of the most precious things that we have, our precious commodity, is our time and our attention. And I open all of my webinars this way because I'm so grateful that you guys chose to spend a whole hour of your day in the middle of your day with me, entering in this very important conversation. As Sarah says, I'm a very interactive presenter. I love having that engagement during the session because it helps keep us engaged and it becomes a full conversation. I am a family child care specialist, and I've been a professional student now for about 16 years. Favorite presenter this week, thank you. I have been a professional student for 16 years. A level 3 trainer. Joey asked what a level 3 trainer is. I am a trainer for the Iowa. It's so hard to say this. The Iowa Child Care Resource and Referral. It means that I have a master's or a doctoral level education, and I'm training family child care or center-based child care providers. That's what a level 3 trainer is. A level 2 trainer would be somebody with a bachelor's degree. I'm the only level 3 trainer in my quadrant. I am in Region 5, which I'm actually in Cedar Rapids, which is the southeast area of Iowa. I spent a year in Texas. I saw some of you guys are located in Texas. I spent a year in Arlington. My focus is family child care. If any of you guys, how many early childhood people do we have with us today? Why don't you just send me a little quip about what program you're with Penn Foster. This will help me keep things relevant for you. It's very important that what you find here is relevant. We got Adrian is medical coding and billing. I think we're going to see quite Spanish course. Awesome. My daughter wants to know Spanish, and my dad knows Spanish. I do not. Bachelor of Business and Microsoft programs. We've got a couple of veterinary tech students. The high school program, if that's what you mean. Yeah, that's great. Medical accounting. So we have a really good mix, and this helps me make sure that what we're talking about, because this is a conversation, conversations are two ways. I don't want to bring in something that doesn't apply to what you guys are experiencing. Through my master's degree in early childhood, I actually took a year off to study the MBA program and took a year's worth of leadership courses because I knew that I needed to strengthen some skills in that area. I was so petrified of starting the doctoral process, and I enrolled in the doctoral program at Walden 3 different times before I ever set foot in class. The first time, no, I'm not ready to do this. I'm petrified of the whole dissertation thing. So I got my graduate certificate in teaching adults in early education. Loved it. And I have been using that ever since I got it. I've used my leadership skills that I received during that year I took off for my master's degree program. Then I enrolled again, and no, I can't do this yet. I am petrified of this. I was so afraid that I went back and got I was going for my graduate certificate in digital marketing to renew and refresh my bachelor degree skills in communication. My bachelor's degree is in organizational communication. So those of you that are in business management or in that level of stuff, I know exactly where you're at in your educational process. And I commend you because it is it was a challenging process for me because all of that stuff is new. It's new information where the early education is something I've done since I was 8, 9 years old. So the newer the information, the more time that it takes. Cindy says she homeschools her daughter too. That's awesome. Sarah and I were just talking about that a little bit before we started today. But so that way we don't take up too much time here, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let's talk about what we're going to be talking about today. The first thing when we're talking about developing new skills is identifying skills that you already have, because how can you build on skills if you don't know what you're building on? If you don't know the material that you use to lay the foundation of your house, how are you going to know it's going to hold up the walls that you're putting up next? So before we start putting up those walls, before we start going into those skills that you need, we're going to make sure that you have a clear identification of the skills that you already possess. So we're going to talk about the self-regulated learner. We're then going to identify some characteristics of an effective self-regulated learner. We're going to talk about proactive. For some of you guys that have been in my other presentations throughout the week, we talked about brain dominance. We've talked about proactive and reactive, and found out that a lot of you guys are actually predictive, where you can look at the situation that you have right now and you can predict some things that you need in order to maintain or reach out your success a little bit better. Neha, I would love to thank you for sharing your email. If you guys want to keep in contact, then I'll go ahead and put that in here now. I think I did that early on in one of my other sessions, but we're going ahead and do this now here. It is really good for me to see so many familiar names. Sarah, do you know if there's a way that we can save the questions box when the webinar is finished? I've never done that before. I don't want to lose your information, because if I can be of assistance for you to help you succeed and help you stay motivated. I know motivation has been, lack of motivation has been a recurring theme throughout the week here. And if there's something that I can do through the presentations, or I have a study group that meets twice a week, I would love to be able to support you in that way.
I can actually send you a report later that shows all of the questions that are coming in, so you would have all of that information.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, because I don't want to lose contact with you guys if you guys are reaching out for contact. So let's go on with the objectives for today. What I truly hope that you guys pull out of this conversation today is strategies to promote and promote success, and identify more with yourself and what you already have, your capabilities, your skills. Recognize the things that you have right now that will be marketable, that will help you overcome the challenges that you might be facing. In this year of my dog, this is the first semester of my proposal, part of the doctoral process. And earlier in the year, I lost my younger brother, which was really difficult. My other younger brother is going through a really nasty divorce, and they have a 9-month-old daughter, and he's also bipolar. So the stress of everything really whacked out his medications and so forth. So he's been in the hospital for 2.5 months. I normally don't get this kind of personal, especially in an atmosphere like this, but you guys have been taking that chance and been so personal with me that if my story, what I'm going through as I'm going through my academic career, will help you find the strength to succeed, I want to share that with you. Everybody has, especially the non-traditional students. Non-traditional students are at the point in their life where they're having full-time jobs. And Joey, I'm sure that you can identify with this as well. Going through the high school programs is not an easy thing to start. You guys going through the business administration process, that is a grueling field in and of itself. So not only do you have the academic stuff that you're working on right now and trying to maintain and succeed in that to help better your opportunities, improve yourself in some way, but you still have the everyday nuances of everyday life. And those sometimes don't always fit together as nicely as we would like them to. And that is where a lot of these come from. Hello, David. I'm glad that you were able to join us today. Adrian, do you mind if I read your question or your comment here with the group? I think this is something that we go ahead. Thank you very much. This is something that we can all identify with. Adrian says, I've been swamped with work the last 2 months. And the oldest child has gotten busy with 4-H, T-ball, and having fundraisers, and me having doctor's appointments. I've gotten behind and it stresses me out. How many can identify right now, before we really get started in this, with where Adrian is at? How many find themselves in a similar boat there? Starting is the hardest part, I think. I would agree with you, Kimberly. Brittany says, yes, ma'am. We are all in that stages of burnout we talked about before. One of my other sessions this week was on burnout. This is going to be kind of almost the polar opposite of that. So we're going to talk about the self-regulated learner. The self-regulated learner, which you guys, I think, I would say that all of you guys can identify with this, that I've had throughout these sessions. Hi, Karen. Yeah, she can identify with that definitely. A lot of you guys I've seen throughout this last week, and I think that I would be safe to say that you guys have been very active. I recognize your names. I recognize how familiar with burnout, David. Yes, caregiver for two family members. So we all have external stuff going on. And it's so hard to regulate how you are responding to everything. So we're going to talk about the self-regulated learner is active. You are an active participant who monitors and applies strategies to control your own learning process. We're going to move this back to, a little bit farther away from everyday life, and we're going to focus now on your academic career. And I say it's an academic career. I can say it's an academic career definitely for me because I've been in college for 16 years now. I'm not saying that everybody else is going to have that much time invested in their education, but you have set out time and invested in your education. And we want to make sure that we are doing all that we can to promote the success of that endeavor, because it is very difficult. Several of you guys have related to how hard it is to even start this process. Terry says that she took care of her parents and have had to put off school, just now getting back into it all. That is a very common situation, especially for non-traditional learners. So the self-regulated strategies that we're going to be talking about are your emotions, your impulses, and your thoughts, and how they influence and impact your performance. Your performance is not just how well you did in the grade book. The performance that I'm talking about here is how how you were able to apply yourself to the timelines that you have for your assignments, how much time you were able to find to read the materials that you needed to read. So it's a lot deeper than just, I got an A on my test. Or maybe I didn't get an A on my test. It is not, we're not talking about how you performed on your test. We're talking about your overall performance and how you were able to complete the assignments that you needed to complete for school. Characteristics of an effective self-regulated learner: they proactively seek knowledge. If you guys were not seeking to learn something, you wouldn't be here. Brittany says, we're going to take a moment here. Constantly asked to take homework. Feeding the baby squirrel. Take these 5 possums. Hard to say no. That is a very good thing to bring to the table, is difficulty saying no to all of these other external factors. And we're going to get into that here in a little bit. We are going to talk about that. Effective self-regulated learners, they're proactively seeking the knowledge. So you actually want to learn what it is your instructors are trying to teach you, the program that you're interested in. You have an interest, a vested interest in finishing that. Effective self-regulated learners interact with your own learning. You seize those opportunities to practice and apply those new skills. So, Brittany, when you're taking home those new possums, or those 5 possums, or working with the squirrels, are you taking and applying some of those concepts that you're working on in class at that moment? For those of you in the business administration, are you able to apply the concepts that you're working on in class to your workday? Learn it today, apply it tomorrow is kind of where I'm getting at. Every day, Kimberly says, yes. So you are very self-regulated. You are actively participating in your own education. You're taking what you're learning and you're applying it right away. You're putting yourself in a situation or in an environment where you could have the opportunities to practice what you're learning. Brittany says, hard to say, I have done this so long. I agree. It's extremely tough to say no, Adrian says. I want to have a good relationship with friends, spouse, and work. I sub as a preschool teacher. That's good to know, and we're going to talk about how we can balance some of those here in a moment. This would there's another presentation that I do that I would encourage you, if you weren't able to go to that one where we're talking about burnout, if you weren't able to attend that one, I would strongly suggest you go back and watch the recordings, because we talk about that very thing, Adrian, talking about how you shouldn't have to give up what is important to you, but you need to make a plan. You need to plan that into your downtime. Oops, I missed one. Self-regulated learners are responsible for your own actions and your inactions. You take responsibility when you don't turn in an assignment, as well as when you do. When you receive a low grade on something, I would ask for the teacher, the instructor to, what did I get wrong? What did I miss? Steer me in the direction of what I need to look up again. So you're not just taking that lower grade as, oh, I failed this one. You're actively trying to find the information that you must have missed. Characteristics of those self-regulated learners, the three natural ways that we approach academic learning. This is something that is not learned, but it can be learned. You can change your approach, but only if you're aware of it. So we're going to talk about the mastery approach. Mastery approach oriented students, you pursue learning. Somebody asks a question, you don't just wait for someone to answer it. You have to look it up yourself and find out more about that. I'm very mastery approach oriented. You are more concerned with the knowledge than you are about the grade. You can be viewed as having a strong desire to learn something, and you stick with it until you're satisfied that you've learned it. Performance approach oriented are students that pursue the achievement. That grade is incredibly important to you. You have a meltdown if you have a B. Those kind of personal gains are very performance approach oriented. This can be viewed as your ability to learn. Achievement goal orientation is a mixture of the two. You're concerned with both. You're concerned about gaining that knowledge, that's important to you, but that grade is also important. Kimberly says that she's so mad about a 75. Yeah, that is performance approach oriented, where that grade it affects how you feel about your ability to learn. And we're going to talk about emotions here in a moment. The achievement goal orientation, I guess that's more me, because my foremost goal is no zeros in the grade book. It doesn't matter how well or I did or did not do. I will not allow myself to have a zero in the grade book, because that means I didn't do it. If you didn't turn in an assignment, we talked about this in one of the other presentations that we gave this week. If you did not turn in an assignment and it's already past due, meet with your instructor. Talk with them about some of the things that are challenges standing in your way of meeting that deadline, and ask them, will you accept it? Grade or no grade, will you accept it? Complete that process. As soon as you turn it in, even if you don't have a grade for it, most often the instructors will give you something if you turn it in and explain the situation that you're going through. They will accept it even for a lower grade. But the important thing for me was no zeros in the grade book. Joey says that I feel like I'm achievement goal because I want to get into a good college, but I also want to remember what I've learned. I would agree with you, Joey, because you're concerned about both. You want the knowledge. The knowledge is very important to you. And that is where it's competency. You want to walk away from your college degree or your college endeavor, you want to walk away with a new competency. So that grade and the knowledge are equally important to you. Okay, so how does this work in the real world? How is this evident in the real world? This is not something that we should look at that is strictly, as we brought out in the very beginning, strictly academically or strictly academic. These are attitudes, behaviors, thoughts, beliefs, feelings that you will take into the workplace with you. You will take into your living arrangements with you. This will become something that will be that will be in your everyday life. I see you did well in school, but what real world skills do you have? Tests. I can take tests. How many of you guys feel that way right now? I can write you a 10-page paper. That's a real world experience. I've been writing papers for a very long time. I can write you a paper, but I've actually said that. Joey says that's sometimes me. Naya says me. All right, let's take this ability to do tests really well. What does that tell an employer to you? If you do not have experience, what does that tell an employer? You are actively participating. You can prioritize. You can talk about your time management, your goal settings, tenacity, being able to finish what you start. That's tenacity. Those of you who are in the high school program, you're finishing something that you started, and that speaks volumes. Those that are in the business management classes, how important is time management? You're showing by your academic endeavors that you can manage your time to get your work done, as well as a full-time job, as well as your domestic responsibilities, because you can prioritize. You're self-aware of what it is you need and what it is your family needs. You can set goals. I'm going to do this on this day. Those are real world skills, and every single one of these are skills that employers are looking for now, that they're saying is lacking in the job field. I'm not sure how much of it is lacking more than how much it is that the job candidates don't know how to express these skills. So let's talk about this, identifying your self-regulation skills. Let's talk about mastery and achievement, because those seem to be the two that fit the academic realm more than just the workforce, the workplace. You're constantly looking ahead. Your research beyond the course materials. How many of you guys have gone into the Penn Foster Library and actually found materials, articles, stories to help you with a concept that you're learning for class that was not required, was not a required reading? Tracy Ann says, I have. Claudia says, I have. These are These are, this is a right brain, left brain dominance issue we're having right now. When I pause like that, my left brain's trying to take over what my right brain is saying, and I apologize for that. Since I've done that webinar, the webinars at the beginning of the week, I'm more aware of how often I pause when I'm thinking on something like this. I'm looking at the word and I'm trying not to say the word, but trying to say what I'm thinking about. This researching beyond the course materials is classic for mastery-oriented learners. Participating in the discussion. Every class at Penn Foster has a discussion element. How many of you can say that there are times that you have gone beyond the required discussion amount, that you participated well beyond the requirement? And I'm not saying it has to be every time, but there are times where you guys have actually so engaged so much in the discussion that you've posted more than what's been required for you for class. Beulah says, oh yes, Tracy Ann's most of the time. I go to the discussion part after the reading, Joey says. Yes, those are classic mastery-oriented activities. You're often, if not always, you complete your assignments early. You proofread, revise before you submit it. How many of you guys are joining me right now where you can't keep your hands off of your paper once you're done? You have to keep going back in, and every time you read it, you have to edit something else. Claudia says, me. Beulah says, yes. I am really bad about that. Those are achievement-oriented behaviors where you are never done. And that's why everything that I write, everything that I do, I was even tweaking this presentation while I was talking to Sarah. I'm never done. We are, hold yourself down for a minute, you're perfectionists. And perfectionists are not always a bad thing, but we have a hard time truly feeling like whatever it is we're working on is finished. That is achievement oriented. Achievement oriented, we're concerned with right now. We read the required materials. We don't go much beyond that. We listen to other people's questions more than we ask questions ourselves. We focus on the assignment, not on the discussion. Just let me get my work done. We rarely finish early. Achievement-based, you are so deadline-oriented that you know that at 2:45 in the afternoon on Saturday, that you still have 12 hours or 13 hours before this assignment is truly due. And you will use all of that time and you will submit it right at the deadline. These are, for you business management people, these are your project managers. They are serious about those deadlines, not a day before, not a day after. You are done at this time. These are the project manager mentalities. You rarely finish early. Achievement-based, you typically submit with minor proofreading. You never allow yourself enough time to read through things before you submit it. Jewel says that she's a combination of both, and that's true. Most of us will have tendencies in each. So let's go back to this. You would be then achievement goal oriented, and that's why I didn't put that one up, because this one here is basically a combination of these two together. You're either one, the other, or you're both. David said that a friend told him that perfectionist is a person who takes great pains and gives them to others. That is a good, I can resemble that remark. I definitely can. So let's get into our activity here. We're going to use the following scale to identify, for you to identify your skills. in self-regulation. We're going to take a look, and I'm sure these are now, I guess they're not smiley faces anymore. They're called emoticons, emojis. So we're going to look at each one of these, and I want you guys to type in what level you feel that you identify with for your own skill. You always have a contingency plan for the contingency plan. Not always. I rarely do that. Neutral, I don't have one or the other. I often do that. Or, yep, that's me. You always have a contingency for the contingency plan. I see a lot of neutral faces. Wow, that's almost 100% neutral. That is interesting. That's never happened before. That is very interesting. You are persistent. You will not stop until you are finished or that thing that you're working on is complete. You will find a way to get it done. You are persistent. Yep, that's me. That's me. Tracy Ann says that's me. Adrian says I often do that. Yes. All right. You're aware of deadlines. You are consciously aware of the deadline. You're looking on Monday and you realize that's going to be due on Friday. Very good. Assessing the why, what, and how you do things will help you identify your program's culture. How many of you guys are always thinking about why things are happening that way? Why are things done that way? What is it exactly? What's the process? What are we doing? How are things getting done? And I expect to see a lot of yep all the time from all my business management people. Because this is definitely something that a business manager is expected to ask. You know your strengths and your weaknesses. You have a good idea of what your limits are. You have a good idea of what you do well, but you're also aware of things you don't do so well. That's a mixed bunch, yeah. Joey says I'm really bad at history. That's okay. I'm terrible at remembering dates. I'm not a numeric person. So here in my doctoral program, my doctoral study is a mixed method. So I actually have to do a lot with the quantitative numbers. So yeah, to a fault, I'm always beating myself up about my weaknesses. Oh, Karen, that's terrible. I am very nervous to take tests, Julia says. Yes. Test anxiety is really different, and that is something that I don't address in any of these because there's it's not a simple thing to talk about. And it's very difficult to talk about it in the course of an hour-long webinar. Cindy says she doesn't like taking tests either, so she's right there with you. You are always prepared. How many of you guys find yourselves, oh, I forgot this. Oh, I got to run back in the house there. Oh, I forgot this. Me. I am always prepared. Nope, I take extra stuff. Yep, Cindy, I'm right there with you. I have a backpack. I don't carry a purse like a normal woman would. I have a backpack and it is full of stuff. I take care of a family overnight that has their children are from 18 months to 6 years old. They have two large dogs. One's a lab and one's I think a bull mix. But I have all this stuff in my backpack that I don't even know how I can find anything in there. I have anything that I think that I might need while I'm over there, including a can of Lysol disinfectant. I mean, these are kids and they have dogs, so I have Lysol disinfectant. I have Febreze. I have, because I go and go about my day as soon as I get done from their place. So I am always prepared, probably over prepared. Backpack is my best friend, Cindy. Yes. And hand cleaner. Yes, hand sanitizer. I've got hand sanitizer in my purse, my pocket, and in my car. So, not that we're germaphobes, but we have to be prepared. Uh-oh. Joey, you see a typo? Where's my typo? I'm putting together my survey for my doctoral program. My 11-year-old found typos in it and was teasing me. She wanted to grade my homework. I said no. All right, we try to make contact if you know you're going to be late with somebody. You reach out to your instructor. If you know that you're going to be late to work, you call work and say, "Hey, I'm going to be a few minutes late." You might actually be, leaving an hour early to get to work, but you'll still call them an hour before you need to be there. Or if you know that you're, not feeling so well, you know what, I'm not feeling so well. I'm not sure if I'm going to be in tomorrow morning. And this is like, yeah, so you're very proactive in that way. We're going to be talking about that here coming up too. Only once have I ever been late. Very good, Julia. You double and triple check everything, almost to the point of OCD, before exiting out a program, before leaving work, or before submitting something you're working on. Julia says sometimes, nah. Oh, we got an emphatic yes. I do this when exiting my notes document. That is perfect. So let's take a little recap here. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. Now, we talked about three things that affect your performance when you're in school. And this will be true when you're out of school, but I'm trying to make sure that we stay on focus about your educational endeavors here at Penn Foster. We talked about your emotions and your thoughts, your characteristics of the self-regulation. I'm going to go back in your impulses. How you think, what you're feeling, and what you feel compelled to do will influence your performance. And we're going to leap into that right now. Let me finish my recap here. I'm like going to the races here. Self-regulated learners are active participants who monitor and you find ways to apply the strategies to control your own learning process. You apply the strategies to manage emotions, impulses, and thoughts, which we're going to be getting into here in a little bit. And you have the characteristics of self-regulation include proactively seeking knowledge, interacting with your own learning, and taking responsibility for what you do and do not accomplish. It's self-improvement begins with honest self-reflection. This, what we just did here, this is a practice in self-reflecting. You are thinking about things that you do, which by default helps you recognize things that you don't do. So all of you that's emphatically me, that means that if you are emphatic that, yep, that's me, it defines me to a T, that you are always prepared, then not at all for me would be that you're not prepared. So it's a double dynamic here. This is a self-reflection activity that will help you recognize not just what you do. We're talking about those strengths and weaknesses. It will help you identify things that you don't do well. So now we're going to talk about those strategies. We're going to talk about being proactive. Proactive is right in the middle of being reactive and predictive. Reactive, you're responding to something after it happens, and you have to recover from something. This would be like um, what we were talking about, turning in that paper after it's due and contacting the instructor and dealing with those kind of emotions. That is reactive. You're responding to something that's already happening. Proactive, you prevent those negative things from happening and re-strategize when they do. You're on the phone 3 days before the due date talking to your instructor that, hey, I'm having issues with this. I don't think I'm going to get it done in time. What can we do? Give me a new plan, or help me develop a new plan to get this done the way it needs to be done. Those are the proactive learners. Predictive learners, you see a trend of what will most likely happen based on your experiences, your attitudes, and your personal behaviors. Personal behaviors would be like whether you're on time all the time. We just went through that checklist, and you guys made all your emoticons, your smiley faces. Those are your those are significant to your attitudes and your behaviors. Yes, I always do this. No, I never do this. And I don't care one way or the other. I don't, yeah, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. Predictive predictive learners is a very hard place to get to, where you can actually see something, and by looking at it you can say, nope, that's not going to get done on time. I need to formulate a new plan. I need to move this commitment and that activity in order to make this happen in the same time, or in the time that it's due. You're you see that if you move this, you can automatically see that the consequences that will be from oh, how do I say this with I want to make sure that I say this in a way that David asks, are most people reactive? Yes, most people are reactive. Proactive is a learned behavior. Some of us have it innate, but it's not not commonly. It is a personality trait that's common with some personalities, but this is a learned behavior. Predictiveness is a learned behavior. And what I mean by learned behavior, it requires a level of awareness that most people do not receive. They are not aware of these things. And that's exactly why I bring this to the table, to webinar fairs like this one, to help you guys become aware of these things. Can you be a mix of predictive and proactive? Yes, you can. You can be a mix of reactive and proactive. You can have a proactive plan where you're trying to prevent something, but you know what? My contingency plan, okay, time to go to plan C. We don't have a plan C. Then you're reactive. I'd like to be more proactive. It is a it is not just a choice, it is an awareness. It is learning from past experiences to help you develop a different plan of action. One of the definitions of crazy is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and expecting different results. Right now, what we're going is we're doing something over and over and over until we can see a new way of doing it. A good example of this would be for me as an early education would be helping a child put a puzzle piece in its place. A preschooler doesn't understand that they can turn the puzzle to make it fit. Proactive people understand that the puzzle piece needs to be turned. We need to look at this from a different way and see if that way will fit. And the perseverant, the people that are most perseverant, where they persistence, They keep at something until they find an answer. Those people are the proactive people that keep turning that puzzle piece. I'm thinking of Thomas Edison. Very good. How many times did Thomas Edison fail before the light bulb turned on? Before the telephone rang? There's a lot we can learn from our own failure. Failure is not in and of itself failure. It is a lesson that that particular thing did not work. So we need to find a new approach. That's all proactive is, finding a new approach to prevent that outcome from happening again. We found many ways it doesn't work. That is true. And you will find many ways that whatever it is you're trying to accomplish isn't going to get you there. If you don't have a battery in your car, it's not going to do any good to put gas in it to get it to go to work, right? If you don't have gas in your car, putting a new battery in isn't going to help. It's trying those different things and assessing what the whole picture is to find out if there's another approach, thinking outside the box. We talked about in the on Monday session with the building the hybrid candidate, we talked about brain dominance, right brain to left brain dominance, and about the colors. Yellows are very innovative people. It is very easy for them to see new ways of doing things. Where the blues, not so much. They're more logistical thinking. They are the paradigm thinkers that this is the way it's always been, so this is the way we're going to keep doing it. How you think, yep, David says I'm blue. How you think impacts what you do. And it will actually help you or hinder you from reaching these goals and those levels. The first thing that we want to do with this, and why we're talking about this today, is to help you become aware of them. You can't change anything that you're not aware of. You can't work on anything that you're not aware of. So being proactive is when you prevent negative things from happening and re-strategize when they do. You save all your course materials, including web pages, into PDF form to be accessed online. Leslie says, thank you for everything. You're welcome. This is one of the strategies we're going to get on right now because I know we've got about 10 minutes left here, and I really want to make sure that we get through to the other really fun activity. One of the strategies that we're bringing out today is saving everything into to where it's accessible to you offline. If you have a web page for instructions on what you're supposed to do right there, I take the self check until I get 100% and then take it again. Very good, Joey. That is a very good proactive approach to being able to complete the self checks and being able to complete the test. Adrian says, I save everything. Yes. And you know, Joey, every time you take that self test again, the information that's so important for you to retain, you're going to see it over and over and over again, which makes it actually more familiar. So you're able to remember it stronger. Your memory about it's going to be stronger. And you're able to get through your actual test a lot quicker with more self confidence. That's your thought, your feeling, and your impulse. All of that is perfecting your performance on taking that because you decided to take the self checks until you got 100%. That is a proactive stance, by the way. If you have YouTube videos assigned, you download them to or put them in a playlist so you can access them easier. You use your first assignment as a template for future assignments. So that way you don't have to keep on recreating that wheel. If I know I have a paper due, I know I'm going to have another paper due in the next assignment. The next assignment is going to be another paper. I have that template so I don't have to keep on recreating that wheel. And that template includes the headings and the subheadings So all I have to do, and it keeps me on track. Because as you see, I like going off to the races when I have an idea and something inspires something. I'm off to the races all the way over here. It creates an outline for the papers and the subheadings. Compare and contrast your quizzes. This is what you were just talking about, Joey. Compare and contrast your quizzes and the graded assignments. So you have an idea of what you did. You know what you do and don't need to study. So you don't need to study the whole entire chapter. You don't need to read all of the resources for that particular test. You just need to read the spots where your grade was lower than what you would have liked to see. Very purposeful studying. It's going to save you time. It is going to lower your stress level because now you don't have to read the whole thing. You just have to read part of it. And it's going to boost your self-confidence. The better you feel about yourself, the more productive you're going to be. Communicate, communicate, communicate is the number one strategy that I can tell you that's going to help boost the success of your degree, your program that you're in. Communicate with your instructors. We talked about if a paper is late, what are you going to do? Oh, well, botched up that one. I guess I'll just wait for the next. Oh, we're going to reach out to the instructors and say, hey, I'm having an issue here and I need some help making a new plan to make sure that I get this done. Inform your friends and your family that you are in school. One of you guys were saying that you were having a really hard time balancing the academic work life situation. How many of this can identify with this where your girlfriend's calling or your friend's calling and they want to go out and do something and you know that you have paper due or you know that you have reading to do? Adrian says, me. I will tell you not to put your friends and your family off, but set a date. Set a date immediately after whatever it is you're feeling that has to be done for school. Okay, I know I've got this. This is going to be due on Friday. I tell you what, let's get together Saturday. I'll call you on Saturday. And unless it is, blood curdling, life threatening, important, they're going to say, okay, I'll talk to you Saturday. You don't have to say no. Several of you guys have said, I can't say no. It's so hard to say no. You don't have to. You can say later. It's not, I can't talk. I can't do this. You need that interaction. We talked about this in one of the other webinars that I've done. You have to have that interaction. The problem is that I live with her. Cindy, I'm embarking into that situation myself. My dad and stepmom are going to be moving into the apartment across the hall from us, so I can help take care of them because I was a home health aide for about three and a half years overnight, and I helped people during their end of life. And I have a really hard time not being able to do that for my own family. I know they're going to try to see how dedicated you are. That is true. What you need to do, what I would encourage you to do, is not put off the friends and family to the point where you say, nope, I can't do this because I have to do this. And a lot of self-help out there will tell you you need to tell them that you can't do this. And I'm telling you, yes, you need to plan your downtime where you have 15 minutes over here. You know what? I can read an article in 15 minutes and that work is done. I'm not telling you to use all of your downtime for that purpose, but you need to plan your downtime. You can say, hey, I need to have time to do this, whether it's with your mother-in-law or your work or your best friend when work calls you in on your day off. What then? Cindy brought up a point where she has something that she cannot say no to, her mother-in-law that she's helping to take care of. That is what I do. Excuse me, I plan my days exactly. Excuse me, as a caregiver for almost 30 years, I admire your efforts. Thank you, Danny or David. It is hard, but it is necessary and it is so rewarding in and of itself. I have been a caregiver since I was a child. I've been a pet sitter, I've been a babysitter, I've been a professional child care provider, and I've also been an elder care provider. Number two is plan to succeed. If you are not planning to do something, by default, you are planning not to. If you don't make a plan to have somebody come and stay with your mother-in-law where you have an hour to go out and do whatever it is you want to do and get away, get a break, then you're planning not to do that. So many things in our life, when they get so crazy, we have a hard time identifying and leveraging that idle time. Yeah, I have just found out that I have arthritis in my knee and I have to have surgery in June. With that is a lot of doctor's visits. But with that also comes a lot of times where I'm going to be spending 20 minutes in a waiting room waiting for my name to be called. That's idle time that you can use. You can plan that as downtime for yourself. Maybe put your headphones, your earbuds on your phone and listen to some music or something to have that break. Or you can spend it using that time to get ahead in your schoolwork. I have degenerative disc disease. Oh, Adrian, I'm sorry. That is so painful. You strategically plan those breaks when coursework is at the lightest. So when you're talking about going out with friends and family, that's what I was just saying. The day after your assignment is due, are you going to have anything due that day? Let's assume that you have your assignment due on Sunday. Are you going to have assignment due on Monday? That is the perfect time for you to plan your downtime with your friends, for you to plan a day off, for you to plan your breaks. If you do not take a break, you will have a very hard time succeeding in reaching the goals that you want to have because your emotions and your thoughts and your impulses will be thwarted at that. They will be on the negative end of that. And I know we're getting really close to the time to go, so I'm going to flip through here. Oh no, my slide is missing, guys. We go right to the thank you. I wanted to get a perception one going, but it's not in here. Well, fortunately, being the resourceful, proactive person that I am, I'll steal it from one of my other presentations. Reward yourself. David, you are so correct. I want to do... Yes. Perception is everything. We're talking about self-regulation, and we're talking... Oops, that's not what I wanted. We're talking about recognizing... That's not it either. We're talking about recognizing your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your beliefs, your attitudes, and that is all governed by your experiences. I did not realize this wasn't in there. I know we're a little over time. Is it all right that we do one or two of these, and then we can be done for today? Are you good
Sounds
with it,
good.
Sarah?
Yep.
All
And it looks
right.
like everybody else is too.
We're going to talk about your perception. How many black dots do you see in this picture? The black dots come in and out, Tracy Ann says. Joey says there's 7. David, you want to take a guess? How many black dots are there? They keep moving. Oh yeah, it says none. They don't stay. This is your mind playing tricks on you. There are no black dots in this picture. Your brain is hardwired to process the sensory emotions the sensory data that's coming in from your eyes, your ears, the smells, the sounds. It could be so overwhelming if it gave you all the information that it has coming in. So it decides, your brain makes the choice and determines what you will experience. Your brain actually tells you what you are seeing, what you are hearing, what you smell. It will tell you what your experience is. I am on the brain in my course right now, and it's amazing what I'm learning, Adrienne says. Yes, it's crazy how the brain works. It is physically, cognitively impossible for you to see the whole entire picture. So while we're talking about being proactive, that is an effort in trying to see beyond what you know is going to be happening right then. To predict something based on prior experiences. So is it understandable how we can all see the same experience and walk away, not experiencing it the same way? We all are at the same event. We are all sitting here in this webinar looking at this picture, but not any of you presented the exact same answer. Looking beyond the surface and insight. Correct, David. We're not giving the same answer for this because your brain didn't experience it the same way as Cindy's brain. Thank you, Cindy. I really appreciate it. As she had to go, and I know we're getting on time here. All right, tell me what you see in this picture. What is this a picture of? A bearded man, a man with vines on his head, an old man, yeah? Does anybody see the kissing couple? Who can see the kissing couple?
I can see them.
Your brain determines what it is you can and cannot see. Here is the man with the vines on his head, the ivy. Here's his eyebrows. Here's his mustache. And here's his beard. There's the kissing couple. Here's his hat and her bonnet and her dress. Here's her arm, his arm around her hand around him, and here's his cape. We'll do one more. What do you guys see here? A tiger. A tiger. Julia sees the trees, the tiger. Can anybody see the babbling brook? An unusually large tiger in trees. Julia can see the babbling brook. Let's take a look at this and see. Your brain picked out the most obvious thing in the picture. There's the tiger. It is the most obvious thing in the picture. I did not color this blue. I forgot to do that. Here's the trees. here's the grass, here's the rock, and here's the brook. David said he saw the brook. Most people do not see the brook. I forgot to color that blue. So when you think about your self-regulated learner and you're thinking about those emotions and those impulses or those things you're compelled to do, your thoughts and your beliefs, they're all based on what you're experiencing and they affect your performance. You are not going to see the same thing that everybody else sees because your brain might be focused on something that they are not. And this is very important, especially when you're in academia, because you might not understand why a teacher made a specific remark on one of your tests, or maybe you have a hard time understanding. You thought the direction was telling you to do one thing when the instructor was telling you, was actually perceiving it a different way. All of that stuff affects your performance. It affects your self-confidence, which then again affects your emotional state. It all goes hand in glove. I do that often. Yes, Claudia, we do. I loved this conversation with you guys. I thank you guys for being so engaged with this. This is my favorite way of doing things. If you would like to continue this conversation, I have put my email and I can give it to you one more time here. Maybe there. I'll put my email in here, and I know I have several of your emails now. Then we can continue this conversation. Continue this conversation in the Penn Foster community groups. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sarah, and she can finish up for us too.
Thank you so much, Shauna. You always have some great information, and I think everybody really enjoyed the active engagement throughout the session. I really love that ability that you and that we have, even though not a lot, it's not an in-person session. You really take advantage of that. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed Shauna's session, and I want to let you know that we do still have a few more sessions going on today. There's one at 4 o'clock, one at 6 o'clock, and one at 8 o'clock tonight. So you can register for those right up until the session begins. You can check that out on the Penn Foster community site. You will be receiving a certificate via email. And in that email, there's also going to be a link to a survey that we ask that you complete so that we can continue to improve our fairs and our webinar sessions for you. And again, Shauna, I want to thank you so much. We really appreciate you presenting all of these sessions this week, and I really enjoyed this one as well.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for having me back, and I look forward to more sessions coming up in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.